And with that, we're going to go to our last question. By the way, this is our Irish contingent. GP happens to be a friend of mine. He's fighting for free speech rights over in Ireland, and it's a mess, but he's an observer of American politics. So, GP, quick question, and then after that, we'll make final thoughts and close things down.
Hey, thank you, Jim. A quick beacon of hope before my question. As a tiny nation, um, assailed on all sides by supranational organizations and usurped by our own government, we have managed, with no funding, as a group of small number of individuals, to halt the anti-free speech bill, to halt the devolution of our neutrality and the entrance of us to NATO by pure force of will, with no funding, no representation in Parliament, and with 95% of our parliamentarians having voted for all of the above. The people are sovereign. The people hold the power. We have no direct democracy like you guys in the United States. We get one chance every 5 years to elect our government. You guys have an arsenal that is like a nuclear weapon compared to the blunt spoon that we have. And look what we have done. You guys can do this. The war must be won in America for Republican democracy. Democracies are being assailed on every front. That's my beacon of hope. And my question is this: our government has placed our nation in a state of emergency, both at the advice of an agent of a foreign intelligence service who's head of our police force now, Drew Harris. They did that on the 27th of last month. We are under mass surveillance, every single Irish citizen. They are likely, I have it on good account, to cancel the election that is due to be called in August of 2024, based on the ongoing threat to national security on which they got the state of emergency implemented in camera and ex parte. That is before the November elections. Both Biden and Pelosi stood in that parliament and praised every one of those parliamentarians who are conspirators in that particular cancellation of our elections under the auspices of the state of emergency, and a conveyor belt of lawfare to remove the right to assembly, the right to free speech, and all of the fundamental pillars of democracy. If that occurs before the election or the election takes place in the United States, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and every Democrat that has visited this nation in the last 12 months has um, given credence to a group of people who are treasonous and have committed treason within our country and who have turned our country from a democracy into an authoritarian regime. And I would like to ask the panel that, is there a will for people in the United States to put more of a focus on what's happening in the Republic of Ireland? Because we are the landfall for all the telecommunication lines that come from the United States, most of them, to communicate with the rest of Europe. We hold the data of 1.3 billion European and US citizens in the 900 data centers that are located in our island that take 40% of our electricity grid. And we have the, excuse me, we have the global and European, Middle East, and North and African headquarters of 900 multinational corporations from the United States of America under a tax haven status here. We control, as a tiny country, 10x the size of territory than our landmass. That's why they want us, because our landmass, our territorial waters, extend 10 times further into the Atlantic than the landmass of Ireland. That's why we're being shuffled into NATO. There has to be a joining up. I would appeal to Americans there has to be a joining up to expose this conspiracy of the Democrats and Biden and undermine them and show them for what they are and what they support in Europe. And let's not forget that Ukraine and Zelensky and the organized criminal group of ultranationalist banderites who are currently there have closed churches, shot priests, closed the free press, and engaged in torture and terrorism and crimes against humanity with the blessing of this administration, and most recently, the acceptance of cluster bombs as a new addition to their arsenal. We must line up as Western democracies who are being assailed by anti-democrats and by globalists. And we must link up these different elements in order to undermine these people and show them for what they are. And my question is there a will for people to look outside of the borders and link up with people like myself and others like Tua Day Donnan, the party I founded, and work together to have an international as well as a national response to this tyranny?
I think that there is a coalition called the Sovereignty Coalition, and I believe that their website is sovereigntycoalition.com, that is looking into issues that deal with fighting the globalization and the overreach with the World Health Organization. And I think that particular coalition would be what you would look into. And it's sovereigntycoalition.org, sovereigntycoalition.org. And Frank Gaffney is the man who started that particular coalition, but there are a lot of people who are part of it. So take a look at that, sovereigntycoalition.org. And if you're friends with Jim, we can probably connect you later after tonight.
Yeah, definitely can do that. With that, Phenom, if I see your hand up, just very quickly, because we're going to close down the
very
space.
quick, just the opposite of that question. Sometimes it's like we went to Brazil when people were rising up, when the election was being stolen from Bolsonaro. Do we have allies that would come to us? I guess that's a sort of pedantic question, but it's kind of the opposite.
We'll leave that one kind of open. I will say I have a very close friend who's a Brazilian journalist who's trying to get status here in the U.S. He's here in the U.S. and I'm working with him on that. This is a big issue. I mean, this is a worldwide problem right now. And GP's right, and I have friends in Asia constantly asking me if we're going to get our act together here in the United States, not because they're upset with us, but because they believe in what America stands for. So that's still there. And I know, and GP is doing a heart there, but he'll tell you exactly the same thing. That's still there. People believe in us if we're willing to make that fight. Robert expressed hope earlier. I think it really is there. I think we do have the people here in this country. It's a tough time right now. It's a dark time, but I think we can make it. With that, Robert, just a quick final thoughts, and then I'm going to pass it to Jenny Beth before we close it down.
Yeah, thank you. So I was just looking at this indictment again, and I was looking at the 19 they indicted. The 19 they're saying they committed RICO. The 19 don't even know each other. Some of them, maybe a couple of them work with each other, but it's hilarious. Anyway, not guilty across the board. And I think there's tremendous relishment to get in and get the facts out. And please, as I'm doing with these folks being indicted today, anybody who's falsely accused, I'm going to help. I don't care what politics you are, and everybody should do the same.
Absolutely. Jenny Beth, you want to make some closing comments, and then we'll close down the space. And Tyler.
Yes. Yeah. Does Tyler want to say anything before I close out?
I'm guessing.
I just wanted to say thank you for the great space tonight. We're going to have a lot of battles ahead of us here over the next year. But one of the things I just want to echo those sentiments, which, I'm a guy who is asked to be an elector in Arizona. And there's a lot of scary times for a lot of people ahead. But this is the difference between, patriotism and doing the right thing on behalf of the country and for the millions and millions of people who believe in us, and really the tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people who believe in us across the world. And so I'm excited to take on these Marxists, these neo-Marxists, because they are trying to destroy the fabric of every thread within American life. And this is our chance to stop it. And I don't want to be known in the history books as a person who just kind of just rolled over and hid or buried my head or cried or ran away. I want to be, a son of liberty who was responsible for the revolution of opening up people's eyes to the gross conduct of people who hate freedom and ultimately hate God, which is who gives us every God-given right. So, that's where we're at in life. That's where we're at in America, is that This is a battle versus good and evil. This is a battle of God versus the other guy. And for us, this is our chance to step up and fight. And there's going to be a lot of people behind us. There's going to be a lot of nastiness, but such is war. And hopefully we open up a lot of eyes for another generation.
Tyler, both of our countries' soil is watered with the blood of people shed to give us the gift of freedom. And it is our responsibility to honor, preserve, and maintain that, not for just ourselves, but for our sons and for our daughters, and not to allow this aberration of unnatural beings both to dishonor and mock what has been achieved and devolve our societies to the base level of their dogma.
I'm a rare American who had family come over on the Mayflower and travail the deserts across the entire United States, coming from upstate New York all the way ultimately to Phoenix, Arizona, and I've been here now for 8 generations. My kids are actually the 9th in Arizona, and I had a lot of family die and contribute to the soil, their own blood, as you say. And this is not about us. You're exactly right. This is about future generations. And I hope that 17 or 18 generations from now, the way that I look at my family and read about my family and the little that I know about them, that they're able to look back and say, wow, I'm glad that guy was around. And that's all we have. That's what we have to do. That's our expectation.
Jennybeth?
I want to thank everyone for being on this Twitter Spaces tonight. We went for a very long time. We went for over 4 hours. When we started tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we did not imagine that the timing of this would coincide with the indictment, but we were able to shift, and I appreciate all of you who have stood with us throughout the entire time, and those who joined later. A few very specific action items. We went through a lot. We have a lot of emotions about what's going on with the 4th indictment or set of indictments against President Trump, knowing that the indictments extend beyond Trump to electors and now beyond electors to attorneys who are working on legitimate legal challenges. There's a lot to be concerned about when it comes to President Trump. There's a lot to be concerned about when it comes to the 2-tiered system of justice that is happening in America today. When all of this is happening to Trump and his allies, and we look at what is not happening to Biden and his crime family, we understand that we have serious problems in America right now. What we are asking you to do during the month of August, while Congress is on their August recess, is to go to your local congressional office and to speak to the staff there peacefully, lawfully, professionally, and tell them that you want to see an impeachment inquiry into President Biden begin when Congress returns after the August recess. They need to hear from us, especially Republican members of the House of Representatives need to hear from us. So please take the time to go and visit your local congressional office. We have a letter that you can deliver. We have guidelines and tips on what to do to go and to conduct that visit, and we'll help you with it. And in the pinned tweets, we've got a link to our landing page for that action. A little bit later this week, we're going to expand that action and ask you to deliver at the same time a second letter that deals with government spending. The end of the United States fiscal year is on September 30th. The new year begins on October 1st, and we need to urge our members of Congress to work to secure our communities, our border, and our nation. And we need to defund the woke weaponization of the Department of Justice. And so we will have a letter that calls for that, along with securing our border. So be on the lookout for that. As my final words for tonight, please remember that this country that we love so much. The reason that you were with us for 4 hours tonight on a Twitter Spaces is not because you don't have other things to do. It's because you love our country and you're worried about our country and you want what is best for our country. Don't give up on that. Continue to love our country. Remember, our country is greater than all of these bad things that are going on right now. And we have survived world wars. We have survived a civil war. We made it through the civil rights fights in the 60s, and we can make it through this. It's our time to stand up and to defend liberty in America. And every generation before us has had to do that in some capacity or another. And now it is our time to do that so that we can live in liberty and we can pass liberty on to our children and our grandchildren.